mountain
I'm
community activities. We do it through, the desire of the community.
I'm here for Trimet information. I'm sorry.
One thing about the former SLU that you refer...
Acknowledge them as separate actions of the government. We have
Come
to
on.
figure
All
out
right, here we go.
More internally here again.
Yeah.
Well, the first news of the day is I hope everybody it's top of mind for everybody. Today we celebrate Rosa Parks' birthday as officially Rosa Parks Transit Equity Day. So we're not collecting fares on the system today to honor this amazing civil rights pioneer, and we're going to honor her not just for this year but in the years to come. So just so proud of the board for initiating and implementing this resolution just at the last board meeting. So this needs to be enshrined in part of our celebration of what she sacrificed as a reminder for us all. So and as part of this, just at least for this year, C-Tran, Important Streetcar, are going to be joining us and not collecting fares as well today. So big thanks and shout out to them as well. So, and again, for those who may not know,
Can you afford it? Oh my God!
Rosa Parks was a civil rights pioneer, and she refused to give up her seat for a white person on a bus in Tuskegee, Alabama, that led ultimately to the Montgomery bus boycott, and eventually to a national Supreme Court decision that bus segregation was frankly just fundamentally unconstitutional. So again, proud of the board and glad to be part of this very important day. Now to COVID, I think we continue to manage it, and I know I continue to learn every day. I just got an email update from Andrew Wilson and Sarah Ewing, who are doing a great job for us with other team members, trying to keep us all posted and
yeah, Dougie, you're just great, aren't you?
I think I mentioned before, we had our mask campaign runs January 17th through February 6th. I want to give you a little update on how that's going right now. So between the on-street teams, the ride guides, the field operations supervisors, PPI, our fare inspectors, G4S, we've now given out over 6,400 masks since the start of that campaign, so that's kind of cool. And we've had well over 1,000 interactions with our riders. On average, something I was really curious about is, so what is our compliance like going out there? So on average, we're in the 90s. I think we're in the bottom third 90s, 93% range.
That's believable. Although you hear a lot of social media people saying that less than half of the people on the trains have them on.
We're already wearing masks and have their own masks, frankly. Very few people have refused to take the mask, and our largest unmasked population really was our non-destination riders on the system. So I think overall...
AKA the ditch people. The ditch people. He called them the non-destination riders. We on Trimet Twitter call them the ditch people because they're in the ditch and they don't care. What the hell do they care if they get COVID? They're going to die anyway in the ditch.
The campaign has been well received by the public, so really want to thank everybody for getting out there on the system. But I do really want to thank Alicia Purdell and Gerald Fields for signing up for 5 shifts, and Donnie Vircher and Gaylord Salisbury and Kim Collin for signing up for 4 shifts. So way to go to all of you to how to set that trend. So pretty impressive. So thank you for your leadership. Still on the topic of COVID and masks, if you may be aware, one of President Biden's first actions coming to office was to sign the executive order, or they refer to as the EO, the executive order mandating masks be worn on all public transportation. So we and everybody else across the country has now received that. We're still digesting it. It's effect now. The CDC supported that executive order, providing direction of their own. We are actually calibrating the Oregon health authorities with the CDC expectations right now. So there's conversations going on there, making sure.
Yeah, the bureaucracies have to coordinate bureaucracies. The one bureaucracy has to coordinate with the other bureaucracy, and then the bureaucracy. Basically, the Biden proclamation is public relations. You do know that, right? Do people understand that these things are public relations stunts? How are they going to enforce this shit? Think about it.
Sure that everybody's aligned to try and do what's the right thing and what's really being asked of us. So So Oregon and Trimet, under the direction of the Oregon Health Authority, we already do
Damn,
from
I'm sick.
OHA require masks
I
on
hope it's not
transit.
COVID-19.
We are seeking clarification from the TSA, and they've been the ones actually tasked with the implementation of this order. And I think there was even phone calls that Andrew and Sarah were on yesterday, as late as yesterday afternoon, trying to gain understanding. These are national calls around, what is it, what do we do, what does it mean, et cetera. So these are, on the surface of the headlines, it sounds like they're all mandated. Well, we're doing that now, but it's not a directive. It's really, you may, there's softer words when you really get to the technical words behind it. So we, like many others, we want to inform. We don't have the resources. We're not going to be removing people from the bus. When you see a high compliance rate that we have in the 90% range, we're very much at the exception stage. But again, we just do not want to have confrontation, nor does the executive order indicate this is a must or a directive to stop the bus, pull people off, don't let them on. There's enough challenges in society right now, and we need to manage this with humanity and dignity as best as possible. And again, if you really get down to it, we also don't have the resources when you have 700 buses out there and 145 train cars plus on our system to be actually putting our operators in difficult situations where we will not be able to be at every point there is a problem. So we do have we have instituted through Kathy Whitman and team one of the advise buttons that folks can notify us if there are people getting on the bus. So it's a kind of a tracking mechanism for us. If we see surge problems, we can maybe put some highlighted focus on those areas where maybe groups of people are not complying with masks. So again, part of this is also avoiding operator assaults and not putting our operators in an uncomfortable position or at risk, enforcing mask uses on the vehicle. It's running fairly parallel to how we manage our fare collection. It's inform, don't enforce, and don't put yourself at risk. So we also have a lot of extensive protocols in place here that we've already taken care of. In fact, if we unbundle the executive order, I think Trimet should feel pretty comfortable, while we're still learning through some of this, that on the surface it looks like we're actually ahead of many of the things that have been actually talked about and contemplated. So, for example, we're one of the very, very few in the whole country actually that actually provide free masks to our ridership. We have health and safety signage, physical distancing signage. Now, that's not uncommon. Most systems are doing that nationally. Limiting the number of riders, supplying hand sanitizers on board. Not too many agencies are doing that nationally.
Really?
We also got our safety bus barrier panel to help protect the operators as a supplemental shield for transmission and safety as well. And also we spent a significant amount of efforts, as some other transit agencies have as well, in keeping the vehicles clean. So we've really upped the cleaning standards to deal with this virus on key touch points on the buses. We've invested in foggers. We've got the hydrostatic cleaners that are now on the rail system each day. So when you start to look at all the steps we've taken, it's really continued about risk mitigation. Are we going to force people off the bus without a mask? No. These are hard trade-off choices, and I acknowledge this, but again, not prepared to put our operators at risk when in fact some of our assaults are already on the increase here, so that is not a good thing. So, but we're going to be working closely with the TSA, and there was an article out even in the Washington Post this morning talking about this exact issue that my counterpart down in WMATA, Washington, has really taken the same position that I have.
Where?
It's inform, don't enforce. We're not here to have confrontation. That it may lead to a lot more other issues. But these are two risks. It's not like do one thing and the other one goes away. These are two risks. We're trying to manage the best of both worlds to mitigate risk. The goal is to get to zero, but we're not there yet. So anyway, that's what I've got on that one. The next update, the vaccine.
Vaccine.
We should be receiving a letter. Every employee should be receiving a letter in the next couple of days from our virus task force that we have, a leadership group inside Trimet that I think some of you are aware of. We want to make sure that we're sharing with you as much and timely information as we get. The Oregon Health Authority still has not issued a prioritization
We're going backwards
for the next groups of individuals, particularly as it relates to us. So we're still in the, hey, don't forget us, we're important, we're essential service list, and we continue to push that. And there's going to be a letter even signed by each of our board members to the governor.
That'll do
That will
something.
be issued shortly here about advancing that causes.
The good news on the vaccines is apparently it's not killing too many people. It's killing some people, but it's not killing a lot of people. That's the good news.
Well, and we have written to the governor's office directly as well. So we know the frontline workers, they are being considered definitely in this next phase.
God damn it. I can't believe I got a cold.
The state around what workers need to be in the next line for the vaccine. So we continue to push to the degree possible on our end. But, as the medical professionals and the governor overlay.
That's got to be
trade-offs.
COVID-19.
We just heard last night about the federal ruling where prisoners in the state of Oregon were ordered to be next on the list and get them done right away. And I think that's the number I heard was like 10,000. So this is a dynamic environment of who's next and the speed of who's next. So the bottom line here is we don't know anymore now on our timing, but we continue to advance our cause to hopefully get everybody through this who's based on the matrix that we've shared in past town halls with you. So so there will be an all-employee vaccine sign-up, again, for those who want to. We are not going to be forcing someone who is uncomfortable. It's not our job to tell you what someone injects in their body or not. That's a personal decision that has to be left to you to be comfortable.
All right, at least they give you that option.
And I loved what Dr. Vine said at the last town hall, where she said, I hope people will take the time to at least be open to getting information to understand what's all involved in the vaccine. And
I've got friends in the medical business who happens to be a doctor. When he says it's okay, I'll get it. Until I get the okay from him, I'm not getting it.
What it can do for us or not. So again, no one's telling you what to take it or not, but please be as informed as you possibly can before you make that decision. Okay. And again, we know that we would ask on the forms that are going to be coming out, we'd ask that all employees please complete the form. And that even includes those who have got the vaccine already. So it may not have come through Trimet because we're not under the transit being triggered list, but we know of a few individuals, I can think of a few right now, who've been able to get it because they lived in Washington State, as an example. So if you've got it, please complete that form as well, because that helps us in understanding who needs to go and when. So please do look for any updates on the vaccines on our Express line or Trinet, email, all the regular sources for us. So with that, Deanne, I'm going to hit the pause button here, and let's try and get to some questions if there are some.
Okay, great. So the two advanced questions that we have are about masks and customers, and I think you addressed this, but I still would rather read them because each one has a little bit of peculiarity to it. So the CDC recommends refusal or denial of service as an appropriate countermeasure. Why isn't Trimet denying service to individuals without masks?
Yeah, okay, that's a great question, and we continue, frankly, to wrestle with this. I think we have spoken about this not just earlier today, but in past sessions. This is, I would love to wish it was clean. If people have ideas how we actually do that, please let us know. So if it's, it takes a village to try and work our way through complex situations like this. Can we pull the bus off and have a confrontation? Well, we could. I choose not to, because if we're trying to balance assaults, and there are some people, frankly, who have health conditions who may not be needing to be a mask, and frankly, who are we to interview them to say, please show us your medical justification why you're not wearing a mask? So these things have a tendency to potentially escalate, and so the goal is to, in today's trying and challenging time, not only from the virus but the economic time, we want to keep this in a controlled environment to the degree possible. And when I look at 19 to 93%, the recent example of compliance, that's pretty darn high. And by the way, we are working with our other counterparts nationally. APTA is trying to help convene some public dialogue in this amongst the leaderships of the different transit agencies. The TSA is doing as well. If you go to the actual language in the executive orders, I think I mentioned earlier, it says you may. It is not required. It is not mandated. I think the sound bites say mandated. When you really get to the language itself, it really softens up because they know the unique complexity of this as well. So this is not an easy one. And not to say we've got this right, but if frontline operators or others have ideas, we have only so many resources. When you've got 700 buses, you've got about 5,000 bus stops, plus all the transit centers and the train stations and such, to ensure integrity of our ability to actually enforce. If you're going to move to that step, you better have the resources to back it up. And right now, I don't think we do. And I think we would end up for all the reasons I've said, I think we'd end up with some really bad outcomes that people would then be asking us, as someone at the board last week testified saying, our assaults are up, almost what are you going to do about it? So it's a challenge here, and I fully acknowledge that, and I'm sure willing to listen and learn if others have ideas how to best balance this challenging situation. But we are absolutely compliant and frankly beyond with the executive order as it's written currently.
Hey, and a similar question, but it seems like sort of weighing different risks. So someone wrote in, how is allowing potentially infected persons to break the law and ride the bus mask-free safer than the potential for an assault?
Well, I don't know if it is. I'm using my best judgment based on advice I get. Right now, assault is pretty obvious what it is, and that's one I'm just not prepared to live with. I just cannot be compliant to open physical abuse on our system. I don't want either of these to happen. I don't think anybody does. Whether these are our bus operators, our cousins, our friends, our family members, our colleagues. Nobody wants either one of these choices. But this is a complex subject of the lesser of managing evils here. And so right now, I wouldn't ever want to say never, but as it sits right now, I think our risk mitigation alternatives are probably better on balance with the approach we're taking right now. And I think even the executive order of the federal government actually acknowledges and contemplates that this is not an easy balance of hard decisions. So again, we don't want either of them, but I think it's the lesser of difficult issues here. And for the bus operators themselves out there, we do have bus safety panels. So a lot of places in the U.S., in fact, I'd suggest most, don't even have those. So in fact, I think we're the only one in Oregon that actually has bus panels.
There is no.
So we've taken steps to help protect the operator to start with and go from there. So if you remember, we even put to minimize the transmission. So we're going to have to keep at it. We're spending millions and millions on masks. We're actually giving, here's a mask, here's a free mask. And we're just going to have to keep that awareness up. But this is not easy, but I am just not going to endorse increasing assaults any further on this system. In fact, we need to continue to do more to get rid of assaults. So that's the hill I'm picking right now. But if people have ideas, please come back with solutions, not just, why not? So that would be really helpful for me as I continue to learn through this and others do. So.
And Marla did write in and say that if someone boards a bus without a mask, that we have offered N95 masks for operators to wear so that they have that additional protection. So that is an option for our operators.
Great. Thanks, Marla. Great comment.
So, a little bit about the vaccine. A lot of employees are afraid and nervous to get the COVID vaccine. What do you say to them?
Well, I go back to Dr. Vines, I think I mentioned earlier. Firstly, it's a personal decision, a decision that you have to make, what you allow to be injected into your own body. That's my position, that's Trimet's position here. I know when my time comes and if I'm offered, I'm going to get the vaccine. To me, this is about risk reduction. And also, let's look down around the corners that are starting to come in the next 6 to 14 weeks, I think they've said. There's a whole bunch of other more contagious strains that are on their way coming from whether it be Brazil, the California strain from South Africa, the UK strain. It's not just what we have today. There are other strains coming. So if you read...
So we're all going to be dead, Dougie! We're all going to be dead! Stop freaking out about this shit already. Either you live or you die.
between the tea leaves, you listen to the Dr. Fauci's and others of the world. If you have a chance to get a vaccine, I encourage you to do so. But most important, I encourage you to educate yourself. Invest in your own choice. It has to be your choice. Our job is to try and provide you the alternative to reduce your risk the best we possibly
Nose
can.
started
based on
running like a
supply.
motherfucker.
Right now, we know there's a supply problem, not just here in Trimet, let alone within the region, let alone the state, nationally and internationally.
Such a great
everybody's trying to
system
get
we
supply.
have there.
But ultimately, you have to make that choice for you. I know I'm getting it. And my 99-and-a-half-year-old grandmother in Montana has got hers, and she's doing, her mother-in-law, and she's doing just fine. And I know other people who are doing just fine. Maybe like the arm gets a bit sore, and I think
Of course, you're really not going to know how this affects you until some time goes by, but it looks like it's not going to kill you, at least in the short term.
a few people have some not feeling well the next day, but statistically, the statistics look pretty darn encouraging as something you consider. Do you get a flu shot? So think about that. Well, if you get a flu shot, these are actually higher protections than a flu shot, including, I think they're almost at 100% efficacy. I think that's what I heard from recently.
They don't know any of this until they have time to. We are the study group. You understand? This hasn't been tested. They don't know until people get inoculated, and then they track them. They don't know what's going to happen here. Okay, this is not a finalized science yet.
On the news that you're not going to die or likely end up in a hospital now if you follow the medical procedures of being alternative. But if you're not sure, check with the medical professionals ultimately to help guide you. Don't look to me. We can set the environment of what we're encouraging people to do.
Hey, another chat box question. Can you please talk about what Trimet is doing or strategies that we'll be employing to get our ridership back up to pre-COVID levels?
Yeah, that is the multi-million-dollar question. That is, if I look at things that keep me awake at night, I call them they're not nightmares, they're not dreams, I call them wake-mares. A wake-mare for me, for this industry, for this agency, is going to be in a post-COVID world. What are some of the ways to drive ridership? CARES Act 2, I think as I've indicated, is a federal funding program, which is highly grateful to keep the services going to the degree that we financially can. But it doesn't get to fixing the ridership problem. So to that, there is some work that Bernie Bottomley, before he retired a while back, around ridership, things to do. So there are some things would be around expansion. There's things like...
Why would you expand now? You see, the capital projects is going to keep going, even though there's no reason to have any more capital. They're going to keep going on that because that's what funds the elites.
We've got to get...
Remember, this is government. This is fascist government. And when I say that, I mean government owned by the corporations, not owned by us. It's all for the benefit of the corporations. And all that CARES Act money has gone into corporate pockets. All the federal stimulus, most of it into the corporate pockets. That's why the billionaires are now trillionaires. And that's going to happen here, too. They're not even going to restore the service, I bet.
Customers back in the seats. I think separating expansion from ridership recovery of the existing system go together. They're interdependent.
They are
but
not.
they're still independent.
Expansion is not dependent.
Cannot cover up some of the recovery of the existing ridership. So I think this agency...
Obviously, anybody with any brains and any logical ability to think knows that expansion should be off the table, but they're not. As you can see, he's not taking it off the table. That's because he's corrupt, just like all the other ones. He's a corporate functionary. He wants to make that money keep flowing to the CHM2 Hills and the Stacy and Whitbacks, the ones that really make the money at Trimet.
He is going to have to evolve and become more market-driven, more marketing-driven than it has been around. Put a bus out and they will come. Supply or ops-driven. You need both. But
No, you don't. No, you
you're
don't.
looking
They
at
don't
things-
talk like this when it comes to the. They don't talk like this when it comes to anything but transit. Okay, doesn't talk like this with police. Doesn't talk like this with military. Doesn't talk like this with firemen. It's just bus transit that they talk about this bullshit market-driven crap, and that's why they pay him $400,000 a year so he can lie with a straight face to us.
Things like loyalty programs. I'll bet you 90% of the folks on this call today have a loyalty card of some kind.
Okay, that is the most ridiculous bullshit I've ever heard. You're losing it, Dougie. That is not. Oh, Jesus.
Fred Meyer's, Kroger, Safeway,
Sickening.
Best Western Hotels, airplanes, whatever. So we are actually doing work right now behind the scenes to get ready with some of those kind of programs. Thanks to Shelley Devine and others' work, we're looking at a headset tour on the Orange Line.
What?
Potentially in multiple languages that tells
God!
the story. So the trains go
Are
back
you
and forth.
fucking kidding
You
me?
download an app of some sort, and we're looking to
Can you believe
be
this?
part of an educational tour, a tourist tour. On your left-hand side is the U.S. submarine.
Oh my God!
Center,
Can you
et cetera.
believe
So
this? I can't even
use it
believe
to
what I'm listening
segment
to.
to bring new value to just taking transit beyond those who just want to be commuters.
Oh fuck!
So we're looking at things like that. We have to continue to speed our system up. The system here in this region, and I've worked in had exposure to many regions in the world, not all by any sense, but and we have to be passionate, and that's why we push so hard to close some of the train stations downtown. We have got to speed the system up here to get the rapid back in rapid transit, to get people where they want to go on their terms faster, even on existing lines. So that's where I want to give credit on the Rose Lane initiative that the City of Portland and previous Commissioner Chloe U. Daly initiated. That's been done in other places in North America and around the world. We need to make this not just a City of Portland initiative. This has to be a common way of getting people where they want to go or increasing the offering we give to our customers. We're looking at using Highway 26 out west to use the side running lanes. I was just talking to the head of Region 1 ODOT yesterday on this exact thing, that we've pushed it off because of COVID, but we want to get back to it around how you use the highway system to accelerate up all the traffic that's stuck.
What?
We have to keep
What?
pursuing queue jumping lanes.
What are
So
you talking
come up to a
about?
stop,
Jeez,
the
you're not
bus
even gonna
gets-
be here.
When the green light goes,
Get the hell
bus
outta here,
goes
Doug.
first, or the train goes first. So transit signal priority, queue jumping lanes. I could go down a long list, but some are physical in nature around infrastructure or ripping up the scar tissue of how we used to do it. Yes, including closing train stations, as I said. And some are going to be new products and services in our relationship with our customer. So I'll give you an example.
His whole take on this is flawed and failed. This is just wrong. What do you expect from these people? Okay, these technocrats are stuck in their ways of thinking about things. They're not going to be of any use to the population going forward here because they got it all wrong. It's all wrong. His thinking is all wrong, completely.
That I went through in a past life in business, and it's not to say this is applicable here, but around loyalty programming.
We don't care.
My boss
I mean,
and
what the hell do you think you're talking about, lawyer? This is transit. Okay, fuck.
And I was at Shell Oil many years ago. We introduced for service stations the first loyalty program in Canada. We literally got a
Fuck are you
5%
talking
market
about?
share increase with zero capital. 5%. This region has 4% transit modal share of all the trips that are taken.
4%, like
by transit.
pathetic.
So it can show you the power of loyalty, and that's the reason there's a business reason, a relationship reason. So many organizations
Ridiculous.
spend so much time on loyalty, and you
This
can
is
think
the
of the
mo-
cards that you had.
Thank God you're
Those
leaving
can be-
because, this vision is completely off the wall. Gone. Just forget it,
a
man.
very powerful instrument. We can't just keep discounting our price to free.
yeah,
The
of course you
majority
can.
of our customers are in their cars. We're also going to have to look at the changing dynamics of things like e-bikes. Instead of the last mile, e-bikes have the last mile's capability and help eliminate the pain of going up hills. So people like to go down hills, but going up hills. So it gives us the last mile. So that may open new avenues or how you connect to transit to get on the system to go about where you want to go. So I think getting people working from home, I think we're going to lose some people here there, but we've got to be ready and they got to be clean, they got to be
It's
safe,
just
they gotta be on
bullshit,
time,
man.
you got to be fast. If we haven't got those basics down,
Just
it's going to be hard to attract people out on top of these other things. The last item I'll say in this one, because this is a big, complex topic, is TOD. We are working through Guy Ben, Shelley, Lancers, Bob Hastings, and others on, we're looking at a concept of a 13-story building right at the Hollywood Trans Center. So let's start building our customers right around and on the properties that we control and up to. We start densifying upwards. So this is a 13-story concept that we're looking at right now, getting very close to activating this thing contractually. So forcing densification, and oh, by the way, it's happened to be around transit. So you may, in fact, not need your car. So another one that's going to help drive ridership in the long term, I also think, is this region has to get to congestion pricing. So where we start charging those who use the roadway system, because right now the transit system is not free and the roadway system really is not free either. So, and it forces people making choices around what's more important. So there's a whole list of short, medium, and long terms that.
yeah, he's talking about social engineering, making it more expensive to force people onto the buses. He's got the whole. Thank God he's leaving, because this is wrong and backwards. Okay, this is all backwards shit. Let me tell you something. If they really wanted people back on these buses, they'd be running them every 5 minutes and saying, look, we're running every 5 minutes. There's no reason to wait, and you don't have to worry about crowding. You don't have to worry about safety. We have all these buses running so you can ride. But that's not what they're doing. They're doing the exact opposite. It's a complete and total failure. They're doing exactly the wrong thing. And they're doing that because it's not, this whole system isn't set up for riders or drivers. It's set up for the elites. It's the elites that make the money here, including him.
Are working on behind the scenes.
He hasn't suffered any cuts in his pay.
As the vaccine finishes up and we get to herd immunity or better, and people come back out to hopefully even removing masks and start to use the system, that we're ready to roll out those programs. To roll them out now,
bullshit.
People need to stay home would be a waste of total money. I'm also looking to increase the marketing budget next year.
Oh my God! Oh my God! He's doing everything wrong.
Telling our story in a different way.
You're gone, man. You're gone. Get lost.
It's a complex question.
It is. It's very complex.
Oh, shut up, Deanne.
Another question about, do we know exactly when we should expect to see the vaccine sign-up form?
I don't know if Andrew Wilson or Azan or Sarah Ewing, I'm not sure of the timing of this. I think it's over the next week or two.
I think you're right.
I had discussed. Okay.
Yes, I think you're right. And then the last question that we've got from the chat box is, can you tell us a little bit more about what's going to be in the letter that's going out in the next couple of days from the vaccine task force?
Honestly, I have not seen it, so I'm not able to give you an answer. I don't know, Andrew, if you're anywhere in the chat room here now that you can jump on, or Sarah, but I don't have the answer to that one, so we'll try and get it to you right away.
Yeah, my understanding is that it has some commonly asked questions, kind of FAQ for vaccines, and then just give some more information about the sign-up form coming, etc. So I'm just wanting people to keep up to date on what's going on. And with that, we're nearly at 11:30, so I will turn it over to you to sign us out.
Okay. Everybody, thank you for all you're doing. Thanks for being safe. Do think about whether you want to get the virus when the time comes. I really applaud those questions today. Again, this journey continues. I can turn to learn every single day in this
You're
dynamic
gone.
environment.
You
so
should
that's
just
going
be
to continue,
gone.
hopefully, for all of us. We know we're not perfect the way everything rolls out, but I'll tell you, I got to thank all of our teams behind the scenes and in the front and the back room of the service we deliver. I got to thank you for what everybody's been doing. Our results have been strong. They really have.
This guy's going to increase the marketing budget. Can you believe that? How clueless do you have to be? Oh my God, how can you people work there and not feel like shame?
But they're fragile. We've got to be nimble. So thank you. The next town hall is Thursday, February 18th, 10 o'clock. It's a general town hall.
Oh, God, you may said it.
Vaccine updates, all the things that so look forward to them.
Don't ever say that fucking word!
February 18th, 10 o'clock.
Nimble. Never,
Be safe.
never,
Have a great day.
ever say that word.